in a day? 2 hours, 3 hours, or even more? Do you feel that you're glued
5 hours.
with your phone, or you cannot survive without a gadget on your hand? Well, nowadays, internet has become an essential tool in everyone's life. We use it to communicate with our friends, with our colleagues, and with our families. We use it as a form of entertainment and to retrieve the latest news. And for working, studies, and many other things. Well, one of the most common services I use, well, I think for most of you guys as well, is gaming. I know how many people here used or is playing game for a very long time in a day. Can you please raise your hand? Come on, be honest. So yeah, me too. One of the games I used to play a lot is It is one of the most popular games in China, with over 95 million daily active users in 2019. Well, but one of the things that annoys me is the anti-eviction system, which this system asks the user to provide their information, including their ID number and their phone number. And for facial recognition, the system can identify whether if the user is a teenager, then they'll be required to regulate their time usage. So me, as a teenager, who only has 1 hour and 30 minutes to play, which I find this time is too short for me to be entertained. But the thing that truly makes me worry about is whether if our information can be used securely and ethically. So teenagers, including me, would try to bypass this regulation, like such as using the adult's ID and money and etc. But have you ever considered that you're exposing this information to these companies? Or let me ask another question. Have you ever wondered how would the advertiser find a way to contact you? Well, one of the most common tactics that they use is social engineering. Well, in other words, is phishing. Well, in this case, it refers to the merchandiser or the advertiser tends to guide the user of this service to provide something that they want, which most likely information or the monies. So let me share you about my experience on this. It was when I was studying in elementary in the public school, wherein one day the school gathered us into a huge sport field to watch the speech from an educational institution. Well, then I remember so well because we were being forced to stay there with the entire school under the sun for the entire 1 hour. Well, after this presentation, I have a sort of an application was being handed, and I have no idea at all in my mind. What I had in mind is the prize that I can get for going up. So yeah, with no hesitation, I filled out my parents' info and then submitted it. And in the next few days, well, thousands of pedal calls were being received from my mom and yeah. So that's my first successful deal that I made in my entire lifetime, which is sold my parents' info when I was 7 years old. With the price of a fan. However, later on, I found myself fortunate because it's only annoying calls and messages are being received. A theft case happened in 2016, brought my attention onto the safety of internet usage. Well, in this case, the theft was tracking the victim's activity for a very long time. And can you believe that? a single random picture that the victim posted online leads the criminal located the exact address of the victim. Does this case shock you? At first thinking that, oh, then I will just try to avoid revealing signature building around me that might reveal my personal information or about me. How naive. Well, according to Beijing News, their reporter found that while some information dealers are actually selling data in package delivery, not just that, some can even query the real-time package data. And more comprehensive and sensitive resume data are also being sold online. On March 16, a case was being reported, which the Yuantong insider was renting their employees' accounts to the outsider. With over 400,000 of personal information were being leaked. On March 19, 538 million pieces of information of Weibo users, including user ID, number of fans, and gender, and even geographic location, were also being leaked. In the same year, December 14, a resume data trafficking network was being exposed, in which this case, when the job seeker sent their resume into this phishing website, then their resume will immediately be packed and sent to dealers. So all these cases show that as long as you reveal a piece of information about you, and as long as the perpetrator wants, they could always achieve it. So as teenagers, and also civilians, how can we able to protect ourselves and have a secure online experience? Firstly, is don't install free software without checking it out first. Well, usually free software are free because they're sometimes come with spyware and adware, and even worse. With the attachment are one of the most common ways that your information can be leaked. And secondly, is don't fall prey for phishing scams. Learn from my experience and be skillful. Thirdly, is don't click on the random links that you saw online. And lastly, is don't ever easily reveal a piece of information about you to a stranger. As long as you achieve these mentioned above, you can have a lesser risk exposing yourself. So, be cognizant and be aware. Let us be a responsible digital user. In this digital era, well, being protected online is a necessity for every child, for every teen, and even for every adult. Thank you.